right, welcome to the next episode of the New Legend podcast, where as always we explore vintage 4x4s, family culture, adventure, and being a man in the 21st century. Speaking of which, we are here with a good friend of mine, fascinating dude, and I'm super excited to have my friend Jared Montz on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is rad. So Jared and I met, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago? Was it, or has it been more? 5 years ago?
I could look in my records, but I think it's more probably like five.
Wow. Yeah. And Jared's just an all-around fascinating guy. And I think one of the key things, we're going to get into this big time, but just the thirst for learning and something I want to explore as a general overarching topic today is something you say a lot to your players and people that you coach is work hard and work smart. Because you heard like the adage, like work harder, not smart, like work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
But that doesn't quite cut it, right?
Well, I mean, it doesn't cut it in the sense like lots of times we're just told, try your best, keep going, work, you know, and
right. At
some point there's a smarter way to do it if we just take a breath and think about it.
So that's what we're going to explore today. But first, we always talk about your first whip. So, Jared, what was your first car of note? What was that?
Well, sadly, I've never had a car of note, Sean.
Really?
And I thought of this question. I got in Iowa about a week ago, and I was on a run listening to a New Legend podcast, and I heard that question, and I thought, ooh, this will be a fun story to share. Because, I have no car of note. I dream about a New Legend one day.
But what was so take us back to the... Sorry.
No, I do have a first car, though.
Okay.
That's probably worth
noting. Take us back to Young Montz.
Yeah, so Young Montz.
Louisiana, right?
Yeah, Louisiana, growing up outside of New Orleans. My dad owned a business. It was just him, and it was Montz's washer and dryer repair.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
So he repairs washers and dryers and sells used ones. And just him, and it was his thing. It was great. Provided for our family, and well, he never really directly taught me anything about business, but indirectly, he sure kind of showed me how to make your truck stand out. So he had like a new white truck with a yellow stripe on the bottom and Montz's washer and dryer repair and stickers
like a pickup truck or something.
Yeah, just a pickup truck. So when he got a new truck, I got his hand-me-down truck, which was like a Ford Ranger and had the little bucket seats in the back.
Not bad.
Yeah, I was excited about it, and I was like, all right, Dad, can I take the lettering off? And he's like, yeah, you definitely can.
Nice.
And there was no like Google or how to figure out how to take lettering off back then, so he helped me with like a blow dryer or something.
Yeah.
Well, what I did not realize was when I took the lettering off, the paint underneath the letters was brand new. And the rest of the truck was faded.
Super faded.
So I rolled up to school like the next day with Montz's washer and dryer repair faded into the paint. Funny. My friends would give me a hard time about the part of the truck that said service after 5 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jared, one thing we have not said yet, but we'll definitely get into the stories. Jared was a professional soccer player. So you don't become a professional soccer player or any professional athlete without a pretty focused childhood, I'm going to guess. So this is 16-year-old Jared, who's pretty serious about soccer at this point of your life, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, because I'm always actually pretty fascinated by this question, because I didn't grow up playing sports. I was into like cars, skateboarding, just different things. So how did, like, because you were traveling around a lot for soccer, and right?
Yeah, I traveled for soccer. I used to play for a club team that was 2.5 hours away from me, actually.
So what did getting your license, so for someone that's like super focused, was it still like, this is rad, this is like a rite of passage?
Oh yeah, total rite of passage for me. Total rite of passage. I could drive, get to where I needed to go, throw my soccer balls in the back of the truck. I had like a lawn care business.
You did? Cool, man.
I mean, it was just me cutting grass a couple yards a week just to kind of pay the bills. But I could throw that in the back of the truck. And I used to drive. This probably without even realizing it, started my love for driving. Driving north on I-55 from Mandeville, Louisiana to Jackson, Mississippi, and we'd slowly get into some hills in Mississippi, and that was my 2.5 hour stretch of dreaming and letting the mind wander. And
that's cool.
Now a 15-hour drive excites me.
Yeah, because this is so. That's an interesting thing. So again, like you obviously didn't know you were going to be a professional soccer player. Maybe like you didn't know the outcome, but at that point, was that a goal in your life? Like you were driven toward that?
Yeah, that was my goal. I mean, it wasn't a cockiness that this was what I was going to do. It was just more of, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm working really hard to achieve that. So yeah, we can go into that more if you want, but
I think let's do that. I have another question about like kind of kindling that sense of adventure you talked about, just letting your mind wander in certain things, and like being so focused on one thing, because you have to have like a pretty singular focus, right?
Yeah, it was a very, so when I'm like, my mind is wandering up the highway to Mississippi, I'm not wondering about really anything other than like soccer.
Really?
I'm going to score this type of goal.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this play. If I make a mistake, I'm going to get back. I'm going to go play on this team, improve. Like you could almost like carve out a pathway in your mind to making it to the pro level, team by team, improvement by improvement.
Right.
And those were the things that my mind would like wander to.
Okay. Because now in your adult life, you have a couple like adventurous types of things that are really important to you and that you pursue. So we'll get to those later. But not too many people, like you're you're the second like professional, like maybe third professional athlete that I know, but you're the one I know the best. Like I have a
hopefully
friendship
the coolest.
The coolest by far. But kind of take us into some of the things. Let me tell you a little story. So, like I'm 5'8", and then when I looked, I used to love, when I was 18, 19, I got into playing tennis. And it's just like, dude, you're never, like when I found out, I used to watch a lot of tennis back in like the Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, Michael Chang. And I always thought like, I identified with like Michael Chang because I looked at him and said like, oh, he's like a short dude. But no, he's like 5'11". And the other dudes are just super tall, So so I always said like, I'm just going to be challenged. So like you grew up, and I know this because of your story, but you grew up like just it's fascinating to me because of your ethos and your drive. Like you were a small kid in like 8th grade, like I've heard this story. So tell us about that, kind of how you overcame, what gave you the edge to perform at such a high level?
I was a smaller kid growing up, didn't hit puberty till later in high school, and also baby face. So you're just like great combo for self-esteem. But I was very smart on the ball. I was probably smarter than I knew at the time. In the game, there was a moment on my high school team. I was a freshman, getting minutes on the varsity, which is kind of a big deal when
it is a big deal.
You're a baby face 14-year-old with 18-year-olds. And I remember specifically the varsity coach called on me during a halftime thing to ask me like a tactics question in front of everyone. And
now, did you intentionally study? Like, would you kind of study? Really, it just came.
I watched this like VHS tape of Manchester United winning the 1999 like 3 trophies in a row.
Yeah,
I just watched that on repeat, and that was how I studied. Outside of that, there was really no internet, no YouTube. That's really all I had. But the coach asked me that question, and the assistant coach later came up to me and he's like, "You know why he asked you that question, right?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Because you're one of the smartest players on the team." And you're kind of like, I was confident, but I was pretty humble, and also just like wasn't aware of that. So yeah, back to kind of the size type of thing. At some point, I got cut from a team that I never should have gotten cut from. And the only reason was I was too small.
Really? Huh?
I think I was 15-ish at the time. but objectively looking back, like I scored a goal from 35 yards in that tryout. I was on the team the year prior. All the players on the team that made it came up to me after and were like, wow, I can't believe you didn't get picked.
Yeah.
So there's some objective data there to be like, that coach either one, just didn't like me, or two, he was from another part of the state and picked other kids. So, you know, in those kind of moments, like, and I have a video on the story, and I've talked to other kids about situations like that where you either crumble or that fuels your fire.
Yes.
And for me, it fueled my fire to get in the gym. I found this speed and strength coach. I started working out. 2 weeks later, the new coach of that team, this was a state team, called me up and said,
this is how old? Like,
I'm like still 15, 16.
15, 16. Impressive.
But a different coach called me up and said, you know, I'm the head coach of the team. I heard you were cut. That guy's an idiot. I think you're the best and one of the best in the state. We want you on the team. And it was like a lesson right then of, you know, just because one person has an opinion of it doesn't
That's
make
good,
it right.
man. That's really huge.
So yeah, but that guy fueled my fire of, I'm going to get bigger. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to do what I can control. And ultimately, like, I did. And when I combined that with soccer smarts, I was a pretty good player.
Because I think that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about talking with you, and just you've taught me a lot of things about not only soccer but business and a lot of things, is like you're always thinking, you're always like trying to process, to anticipate. Because in soccer, like, there's so much of it, like if you can, it's like inches, it's a game of inches.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, kind of to your point about like always thinking, and it's like always improving. And probably in the last couple of months, I've thought about this more, whether it's personal life, business life, soccer life. In college, my sophomore year in college, I won a team award for most improved player.
Interesting.
And when I got that, I remember thinking, dang, did they think I stink?
That's right.
Because in America, if you win most improved, usually like you're like the worst kid on the team.
Right.
And you know, it's like, and I'm 20 years old, 19 years old at the time, thinking, golly, I didn't think I was that bad. Well, most of my team was English.
Oh, okay.
Much older than me. And the guy who won MVP of the team that year was someone I looked up to on the team. And he came up to me and he was just like, hey, Jared, you know the award you won's a really big deal, right?
Huh.
He's like, I won that last year.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, really? Thanks, man. And I think most improved award is probably like one of the ways you could define like my career, both on and off the field, is, you know, I'd get to the next level. I'd be a sub. I'd earn my time. I'd buy my respect from the veterans.
Yep.
I'd learn. I'd improve. I'd train. And then usually by the time it was ready to move on, I was one of the top players on the team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where I feel like
good,
I'm at
man.
now. It's just like constantly reading, constantly learning, just enjoying the process of getting better.
So let's just, because I want to get to that. Remember that point, because that's the point.
Should I be taking notes here?
Yeah. Basically. Because I feel like that's, because people watching this podcast, how many people watching or listening to this podcast are going to go be professional athletes? Probably next to none. But how many of them are trying to be a better dad or a better husband or a better, like how to shape and run their business better, or create a set of something I want to talk to you about is mission and core values. Like, so I think you've taken that same exact thing that made you successful in the soccer field and applied it into a lot of different areas in your life. And and I do want to dig into that. But I remember also adversity. Like I remember you telling me like your college coach wasn't the greatest coach. Or just not a great coach, but
probably not a great person.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Probably not a great person.
But like, just when you have those people in your life, you could have said like, I just quit. I don't want to deal with this. But instead saying, no, I'm going to push through even harder. I'm going to keep working, keep getting better.
Yeah, it was, I mean, the game just gets mental, whether you're playing life or playing on the field. The game's mental at some point. For sure. And, you know, this particular coach, he was very controlling. I don't know how to describe it. Basically, I got to a point mentally where I just didn't care. And it's a fine line between, you know, disrespect, I don't care, And, I know when I play well and I know when I don't. And if I'm playing well and you think I'm playing bad, I don't know, it's on you. Trade me, move on. If you don't like the business I'm running or whatever,
that's right.
Don't buy the product.
Your boss, or your boss treats you a certain way.
Yeah. If I can truly say objectively I'm playing well, and you don't think so, it's totally fine. Let's shake hands and move on.
Yeah, and even was it under that coach, you guys won like 2 college championships?
We were usually ranked number 1 in the country. We won 1 national championship. This 1 year we lost 1 game and didn't get into the playoffs. So he was a good coach in the sense that he could organize a team, but the team played in spite of him, not for him.
Right.
When I left, like, I never called him.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, like, every player, they want to be loved by their coach, and they want, in my opinion, you want to be the coach who's getting the college graduation invite one day or the wedding invite one day.
Man.
He just wasn't that person.
So coming out of that college experience, do you get like drafted into the MLS or into the soccer world?
That's a good question, because I didn't know at the time. Yeah. Typically you get drafted
out of college
or before you graduate. Now it's starting to become more commonplace before you graduate.
Okay. So kind of give us what was the mindset going into that next phase? So you as a kid are like, I'm going to play professional soccer. And then you've had a successful college career.
Yeah.
And then how did you keep that dream alive? How did you keep kind of pressing into the next phase?
So my mindset, even in high school, was I didn't really know the pathway to go pro. I just knew I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I couldn't sit around and wait to get lucky.
Right.
So in college, that meant playing on a team that was 2.5 hours away, so I could go to the right showcase tournaments to get seen by the right coach. And then in college, I went to a D2 school. Despite being number 1, most kids are getting drafted from D1 programs.
Right.
And I didn't really know what D1 soccer, what that looked like. So, in my small town mindset of, am I good enough, confident, but am I good enough?
Right.
How much better is D1 than D2? I just didn't know.
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. And, for me personally, before games would start, if there was an older English player or a big D1 All-American or something, you kind of be a little nervous, but once the game would get going, I would just ball out and do my thing. And by the end, I'm like, I'm better than this kid,
Yeah.
Not cocky again, but just why didn't I start the game this confident? I belong here type of mindset. So in college, I was fortunate that I knew a player who's a couple years older than me. His dad used to own a small pro team in New Orleans.
Okay.
And this was before Major League Soccer. So some of his coaches that he employed were now MLS head coaches.
Cool. Okay.
And he knew me enough and knew my background enough to go to bat for me and basically call up his old coaches and say, you should take a look at this kid.
And that kind of cracked some doors of opportunity.
Yeah, so the summer before my junior year, 20 years old, I got the chance to go practice with Dallas for the week. And I spoke to the head coach on the phone, and he's like, Mr. Pate said I should give you a look. If you stink, he didn't say stink, but I guess if you stink, we'll ask you to leave after the first day. If you do good, you can stay for the week.
Okay.
And, I did good, scored, got assists, did great in practice. And then the following summer, I did the same thing with Dallas and Chicago. And then ultimately, long story short, signed with Chicago.
Yeah.
After school.
So, and was it how did that feel? I mean, it had to be did it all kind of go, or is it you're so in the moment that it's I'm playing pro, this is amazing?
Well, without going too deep on this one, I got a phone call that I was going to be signed by Dallas. Ultimately, I ended up in Chicago, but I got this phone call midway through my senior year that I was going to be signed by Dallas, and I'm like, it just stopped me in my tracks. I got my flip phone or something in college, a brand new cell phone, and the coach is like, yeah, we're signing you. Be ready come February 1 for preseason. And I was just started kind of crying right there on the spot.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was quite the emotional rush.
Because I don't know the math, but statistically, if you look at 1,000 young 10-year-old soccer players, like how many make it to the not even one? Probably
the stats are not in your favor.
Right.
You know, for me, when I looked at it, I was like, well, I'm in that 1%.
Right.
But yeah, they're not in your favor.
Right. It's amazing. So that's really cool. And then you're playing and you had some injuries, right?
Yeah.
That kind of took you out of the game. So how did you start to then, because we'll take this into your kind of recent life and your business endeavors and different things that you're doing. But so how did you begin to shift like this singular kind of focus of like working out, absorbing the game, just all about the game. Now you start going, what's next?
Yeah. So this would have been January 2006.
Yep.
It was my first off season as a pro, and it's like a winter break. And I did my first soccer camp. So I was on a rookie salary back then, which if you really looked up the numbers, you would see that I wasn't driving a New Legend truck back then, that's for sure. And but I loved what I was doing. I was happy. It was single. I was living my dream. I didn't really care about the paycheck. But I thought I would love coaching, and I really wanted to teach players things that I had learned along the way that I wish I would have known as a kid.
Yes.
I also had somewhat of a business background just from car waxing in college and just doing what I needed to do to kind of pay the bills to keep moving. So I was like, yeah, I'll do a soccer camp. And I knew a couple of the veteran pros that did soccer camps.
Like you went into an organization that did, they asked you to host coach?
Yeah,
or like,
no, back then I didn't really know. I had somewhat of a vision for the first camp. That was it. I didn't really get it.
But it was your entrepreneurial thing.
It was
That's
Jared
awesome.
Montz pro
Cool,
soccer
man.
camps.
That's
had
rad.
a T-shirt. It was really cool. And there was a little girl at that camp who was maybe 6 years old. She recently graduated from college, and she was coaching at my camps the past couple of years. So that's been kind of gnarly for me to have her be at the first one. But yeah, a lot of the core things I was doing at that first camp, either from a teaching soccer standpoint or the mental side of the game, it's still a part of my coaching today, which is cool.
And so I think that's fascinating that there was, from whether it's from your dad and his little small business or like your lawnmower or waxing cars, there was some drive in you to create and to entrepreneur situations. And then so you started this first soccer camp, and then this crazy thing starts. You start making these videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Now, so if you, Jared, how many so Jared you have soccer technique. You started the online OSA, online soccer academy.
Yeah, online soccer academy.
And as a dad coach, this is actually how I got to know Jared. I'm a dad coach. I'm coaching my daughter's team, and they're starting to get good. Like they're just growing up and they're getting better. And I'm like, I need to know proper technique, because I played when I was a kid. And I started playing as an adult, and Jared just says your videos were the best I could find that like broke down, here's how to break down the technique so it's really correct, and you can blossom into really effective ball work, footwork. And then here's if these things are going wrong. You kind of had a similar format. So you put these videos together. Did you have a vision for what those videos would, how many do you have now?
We say 200 plus. I think it's like 450.
Jeez.
I probably have another 1,000 ideas written down.
Yeah, it's like 450 YouTube. If any of you guys out there have ever made one YouTube video, 450 videos. And you just start making them.
Yeah.
And they were free. And you're just educating kids and parent coaches. And so how did the vision evolve to start that? And then how did it evolve through like, okay, now I'm going to, because it was a genius thing from a business perspective.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So kind of take me through that thought process.
Summer of 2008, at this point, I was dealing with injuries. I had done maybe 10 camps in the off seasons, one or two in the summer. And a friend of mine told me about social media, It sounds
in 2008.
Yeah,
that's actually early.
It sounds
dude.
hilarious.
That's impressive.
It was real early, like real early. And I'm like, social what? And at this point, I had a few YouTube videos. I created this show called Montz TV, which it's kind of comical.
Do they still exist out there?
They probably still exist out there if you look them up. They're on like a weird channel. But basically, the idea was to interview my friends who were playing pro, like a beyond the glory type interview. How you made it, inspire kids. Yeah. Okay. That took me about 10 seconds to pitch what that was. Well, the first video I ever made was me taking 10 minutes to explain what Montz TV was going to be, followed by the first comment of, "This video sucks." So that was my first ever comment. Thankfully,
and YouTube was like a new platform back then.
I remember reading their FAQs. I was not very like techie back then or anything. Reading their FAQs, I found an old camera with cassette tapes. I had to like hook up all these wires.
That's really
record on cassette. I set up this like banner with PVC piping, and the camera shot
for Montz TV.
Yeah, for Montz TV. The camera shot was so wide. I'm in my mom's kitchen. Did
you have like the sports headpiece with the microphone?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any of it. And the PVC piping was like showing, so that it wasn't a tight shot. The echo was terrible. We're on like tile floor with no sound equipment, and but anyway, I was doing these shows, and like the guests were John Thornton. He's the GM at LAFC. They just won the Supporters Shield. Like it was super crazy. Cool. It's me and him in my like room in Chicago talking. Awesome. And anyway, my friend was like, you should sell those videos. I'm like, why would I do that? They're to help people come to camp, and it's just kind of fun.
Yeah.
And he showed me this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, with like a wine show. And he's a pretty big name in social media marketing and advertising these days. And I saw his wine show video, and I'm like, okay, I could do some more of that.
And was his wine show, did he sell the videos or?
No, the wine show was free, but he owned a wine business. So it was like, it seems so simple now, but back then it was like kind of genius. And so the next day, I left that conversation, and the next day, ironically, driving home from Jackson, Mississippi, where I used to let my mind wander, and that like idea was floating around my head and I was like, training videos, because the one thing I kept hearing with soccer camp was, it's never a good time. It's never a good time, never a good time. Even though we'd have a great turnout, 30, 40, 50 kids at camp, you couldn't get to everyone. And I was like, oh wow, a video could get to everyone whenever they wanted. And that evolved into building this online soccer academy and how-to videos. And
now, was it tempting? Because I'll tell you, in our business, like I've had at least 200 people tell me, you should create a 800, whatever the 888 number, like a tech line that you charge people for, because you give out to give advice. And we're just like, no, dude, that's not like sustainable or a good idea. Like, we got to educate people, and then if we do a good job at that, if we serve people, then they'll buy parts from us and be wiser and more educated. But was there a temptation to like try to monetize those videos early on? Well, because it costs money. That's what people don't realize.
Yeah,
content creation is actually very difficult, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of expense to buy those beta tapes and a.
Yeah, so I built custom software in the early days to create profiles for Online Soccer Academy. We had a custom video player, which the common mistake in a technology company is the business person pays to get the technology built versus having a technical co-founder.
Yes.
Eventually, all that software was trashed, and I basically consider it my MBA program.
Yeah.
Which was worth it now.
Yep.
But,
interesting.
Yeah, there was that temptation. We did charge in the early days because back then everyone kind of charged for content. I learned really quickly.
Yep.
That is not what I wanted to be doing. I like to think of the business of free, and that word free is really powerful, and it builds a lot of trust.
Yep.
And for the most part, I take a lot of pride, and when we recruit new staff to join our team, our new coaches, they take a lot of pride in the fact that we can educate anyone in the world who wants to learn about soccer, regardless of their income status.
Yep, that's right.
A kid in a slum in India who's getting made fun of at school gets to use our videos.
Isn't that cool, man? That's cool. That's so rad.
Gets to use our videos, and he's improved so much that now he's getting picked on his team first. And he, years ago sends us a comment saying thank you. And you're just like,
that's rad.
It's pretty special and powerful, and I take a lot of pride that we can do that. So we will always have a large percentage of our content being free.
Right. So, and that's like the altruistic kind of benevolent like thing, and that's real, but it also is a very smart marketing strategy, right? Not to sound like, and I have no problem saying that, because we create tech tip videos. We create a lot of videos that are both like helping someone buy the right scout is a huge service, and we do that for free. So if you listen to a podcast or watch a video on how to buy a scout, that's a good thing. But it also gets you, like you said, it builds that trust. It's like, hey, these guys are people I can go to when I need help with my scout.
Yeah, it is very good marketing.
Yeah,
I'll be like, I'm just being humble about it, but it's really good. While we're sitting here talking, thousands of people will watch videos, and some of those people will be interested in attending our camps.
Yeah.
But if you look at some of Miss Sally Field's cookies, like, no one buys a cookie until they have a taste, a free taste. Don't charge me 25 cents for that little bite of cookie. That doesn't feel nice. Give it to me for free with a smile on your face. It feels a lot better. Mm-hmm. And it's a powerful medium. And the other really cool thing with content that you create is you are showing your culture and what you're about. And people that watch, they either like it or they don't. And guess what? If you don't like it, that's totally cool. Don't watch anymore, or, don't attend one of our soccer camps. And, for the most part, I'm really fortunate that when myself or our other coaches travel around the country and do camps, for the most part, we're hanging out with people like you that really connect strongly with what we do. And these are people we'd want to hang out with anyway.
Yes. Perfect segue into how important has it been, and is it, to have a mission and core values that drive your personal life, that drive, you and I were talking like how you felt like it was an interesting conversation to say like, hey, is it weird that I have like a mission and core values with my family and like taking my wife and my 2-year-old daughter through them?
Yeah.
But I think so. Like, cause you tend to think mission and core values that's only a business strategy thing. But what if we take that and think personally, like, because we all have a mission, we all have core values. We may not be able to articulate them, and we may not like them because we don't think about them. But yeah, so let's talk about that.
Yeah. I did used to I'm like, is it weird? Because occasionally someone's like, oh, he's too business, or, which I'm not. But if you're not business at all, and then you see me have a checklist and a process, and then you're going to think I'm businessy. Well, anyway, I've been reading a lot of Cameron Herold's books recently. He was the COO at 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Yep.
He wrote a great book called Miracle Morning, but in some of his writings, like, he almost gives you permission to write a mission statement or core values for yourself and your family. And I'd already written some at the time. So I was like, oh, all right, great. But for example, like my family has a value of organized but laid back.
Nice.
Like, we're going to spend some time and compare calendars and structure time out and structure time with our daughter and playtime. And some people may think it's neurotic, but guess what? When we're in that time where it's free time,
that's right.
We're totally chilled out. My phone's on silent, and we're very laid back.
That's great. That's awesome. So think about how that has, like, because I noticed that about you, and that's one of the things I really like about you is because that drives you. Once you have that mission and core values, then it starts to, you can get others on the team, like not only your wife and your 2-year-old Skylar. But it will permeate her life, and she may not be able to articulate them line by line, but she'll feel them, and it'll become a part of her culture and context.
For example, one of our values is like, have fun making family memories.
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
It's kind of like part of the mission a little bit. And my daughter just turned 2, and maybe she's a pretty good talker, but maybe 5 months ago, out of nowhere, at some point, when we say bye, and she's like, bye, she started going, have fun.
Nice.
Because she hears my wife and I say, have fun when we leave.
That's awesome.
Which, when I first heard it, I just had this kind of like mindful moment and thought, how cool is that?
Yep. Because what's rad is like mission and core values create culture. And then once you have the culture, then it starts touching other people, and other people come into it and they experience it and feel it. So as you've been growing your business, and like you've become a part of kind of your wife's business now. But in your particular business, you recruit basically coaches to run these soccer camps, and you are not there. So they're representing your brand. So how important has mission, core values, and then the culture, because you have a strong OSA and you have there's a strong culture. And there's a lot of intentionality to that.
Yeah. It's, the one-liner for a staff coach for us is a dependable coach with an infectious passion for the game. And then I could probably write you an essay on the rest of it.
Right.
But that's kind of the one-liner. So one of our coaches, this guy named PJ Steiner, I met him in a parking lot at an indoor facility in Pennsylvania. And within 30 seconds, I was like, this guy's an OSA coach.
That's awesome.
Because he's smiling. He was polite. He was managing the place that we were doing the camp at. He'd been dependable the whole, like, once you kind of know what you're looking for, it makes it easier. And it also makes it easier to say no to the people that aren't a fit, because I'm a pretty good coach. I can coach the X's and O's of soccer or of a business or how we're going to do things in our process. I can't coach personality.
That's right.
I can't coach caring. And I know that, so I'm not even going to try to do it.
That's right.
It's just not worth it. Occasionally I'll go outside of our target market for something, either a customer or a staff person. And I was like, let me just experiment a little bit. And pretty much I'm like, it just proved me correct.
That's right.
To stay focused on the true core values.
That's
Otherwise
huge.
you can't change people.
And I think that's been a key to building our team as well. When people come visit New Legend, they're always like, dude, you have such a special thing going on with your guys. Like, there's this cool culture, and they can't really put their finger on it, but there's something special, because the types of guys I hire are not, skill and craftsmanship is very important, but who they are as a person. Are they honest? Are they dependable? Are they want to do the right thing? Once you have those characteristics, like, then you can train skill. And there's like, definitely, just like with soccer, with athletes, there's some people who are just gifted athletes, but that doesn't mean that you're going to want them on your team.
No, sometimes gifted means not great team player.
Right.
Which isn't always the case, but I'd rather manage the process than manage the person.
Yes. Process versus the person. So this is good stuff, and we don't have a ton of time, but like, so if I had to summarize some things that you would encourage every person to think about, what's your mission? What are the core values that drive that mission? What is the culture you're creating? And I think as I look at you, those are the things that I think about when I think about at least the things that I want to emulate. Like, because similar, you recently took over, not took over, but became the director of a soccer club, local soccer club, and you started the process, right? Like, defining mission, core values. And now, how long ago was that? 2 years ago?
It was a year ago.
A year ago. And would you say that there's a definite culture shift in that organization?
For sure.
Yeah.
We've either fired, asked to leave, or people have left who aren't the culture fit, which the culture we're kind of defining and putting in place is positive but competitive. And we're not going to scream at kids when they make one mistake. And tough at first, but my goodness, life is so easy in year 2, because we don't have the problems of some of these other people and the parent complaints. And the other thing about culture, whether it's in your personal life or professional, it repels the people you don't want.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
It repels the people you don't want. It makes it really easy. And if one does kind of creep through, they're the oddball, not you. And either they kind of conform to your vibe, or they move on.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
And that's an aspect of, like, even in small business that any entrepreneur, any business person can relate to. And it's some of the hardest, like darkest times you'll go to, especially when they're like friends or family. But when they're just not, they're like getting like kind of getting rid of sounds harsh, but getting rid of those people that don't fit the culture, and they never will. And they're only going to create tension and chaos and cause disunity, division. Because one thing I've definitely learned, man, we don't have a huge team, and I love my guys, but we've had people like misery loves company, and there are times when like they sense that they're not fitting the culture, they're that odd man out. They love getting some company and getting people on board with them, and then it just makes like go back to the other value. Like it's not fun anymore. And even in our business, and I'm sure in yours, I see you and your coaches. We've hosted your coaches, and we are always having fun. Like they're great people, and so you should be proud of that, man.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we could talk about this for hours, and I love geeking out. Jared and they're like one of my favorite people to geek out to like business about. And you're such a you're well read. I need to read more. So I'm always like picking up some tidbits from you. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I'll take a discount on my future New Legend.
That's right. Now, speaking of that, this is the big thing, dude. You guys, New Legend, Jared is the guy that came up with that name of New Legend. And so we had this, we had, New Legend was birthed out of anything Scout. And we saw it as like our top end line, like the ultimate expression of our craft with this New Legend line of trucks or model of Scouts. But we're like, we don't really want to be, we love other vehicles as well. Like we love Jeep Wagoneers, we love Range Rover. There's just so many other things that we love. We don't want to only be a Scout thing. So we said, and it was just taking on this life of its own, and we needed to have New Legend needed to have its own identity, but it wasn't called that. But actually, we didn't even, like, you came up with the name, but at the time it was still a model. But we had all these, so we have this whiteboard in our office. Jared comes for a camp, and we have all these words like vintage, preserve, patina, like all these like retro on one side. On the other side was like modern, reliable, performance, all these different, there was these two sets of ideas. And we stared at this board for probably 2 months and came up with all these crappy names. There's like Aesop, like all these weird names. We're just like, like when you're trying to name something, it's just like, that's terrible. I know. But you think it's like, but I got it. And then you say it out loud and it's like, that's terrible.
How do you say that? How do you spell it?
Yeah. So Jared came in, and I remember it clearly. You're like, I talked to you about it. I'm like, I walked through the whiteboard, and you're like, just give me an hour. And you're like, leave the room. And you set up a chair and a table, and you just stared at this board. And then I went out, and I came back like an hour later, and you're like, I got it. No. Right?
No, that's not how it went. It was along those lines. Okay. I don't want to make it sound like it's that good. It involves a toilet and like a day or two.
Really? Okay. But then it was.
But you continue on your story to make me out like this Mad Men legend, and then I'll share like my version of the same.
Okay, because I remember, and I do have a bad memory, but it was like you wouldn't tell me. I remember
that is correct. When I got it, I wouldn't tell you.
Okay,
because I wanted to show you. I needed to show you a visual.
Yes. So at dinner this night, after you told me you got it, I'm like, dude, just tell me, bro. It's like not that hard. Just say the words. Then we sat down at dinner. You got out your laptop and you make this presentation, and it was awesome. And it was like literally like you getting that call from Dallas.
Yeah.
You like the skies opened up, and I'm like, that's it. Like it was genius. And like,
thank you.
You came in hard. You only had one option too.
Yeah,
you didn't have a plan B.
No, I didn't. That was it. So take us through. I was actually going to be like, if you don't take this, you're an idiot, and I am taking it back for something else.
For something else. So I'm forever indebted to Jared. So let's take us to your part of the story.
So on near the top of my professional love list is the creative side of business, marketing, branding. With OSA, Online Soccer Academy, I didn't really think that way in the early days. I just kind of came up with like a name that I thought would be search friendly. So if I was starting OSA over again, it probably wouldn't be this name.
Right.
It's just kind of evolved, which
sure, it is good.
Ultimately, I think if you're a good marketer, you can brand a piece of toilet paper into anything. Yeah. So in another life, if I wasn't a soccer player, I feel like I would be one of those Mad Men characters that would just think of creative ways to brand concepts.
Anything, right? Yeah.
Just come up. I don't know. I find it so. I'm not like a designer, but I appreciate design. I can kind of have a decent eye for it.
Yep.
So anyway, when Sean was telling me about the new name, I was like, oh, let me take a stab at it, please. And I've been fortunate to name some other things the last couple of years, and it's just fun. So I was like, all right, take me to the shop. Let me look around. Let me look at the board. I was looking at the big word names. I thought, well, those won't do good, but I'm not going to say that.
Did we have some sample names up there?
I mean, you had so many words and names up there, which was a good brainstorm. Like, you should have a lot of ideas. Like, in the idea phase, you don't want to shoot anything down.
Right.
You don't want to, what about this? Just let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. Don't overthink it, let it flow. And so I think I took a photo of the board, and I've always like loved anything Scout and the customer and the what it was, because there's so much passion, and I love that honor the past, build the future.
That's right.
I thought that was such a cool line, and this old truck being road ready for today, and the modern man in the 21st century. Like, most modern men don't have, they're not good enough on trucks to like repair them, but they want the old look. I just thought it was so cool. So,
and just a tiny piece of extra context.
Yeah.
When Jared comes and stays with us for his coaching gig, like, he gets to drive a Scout.
Yeah.
So like, that's been always something that.
Oh yeah. I can't believe I get paid to come here and hang out.
Yeah.
but
yeah. And just like,
yeah.
But just like that feeling. And actually I appreciate you sharing a little bit about this, because I'm so used to it. Like, I feel like it's like if you live in the mountains, like, do the mountains ever become white noise, or if you live on the beach?
Yeah.
But like, so you get to experience these Scouts, and is there this kind of hard to explain thing that happens when you drive a vintage?
Oh, sure.
4x4?
I mean, when I ride a beach cruiser, I can't help but smile. Mm-hmm. When I drive an old vintage 4x4, I can't help but smile as big as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And then when someone pulls up next to you and they're like, dude, sweet truck, man, you're just like, yeah.
Nice Bronco.
Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, when I get to drive the old Scout, what was that, from the 50s?
No, it's the 67.
It's the 67, this red Scout.
Doorless, topless.
Yeah, doorless, seatbelt kind of barely works. I don't know.
That's right.
Well, last night the lights went out on me on the farm roads of Iowa. So, yeah, it's just super cool. And I was kind of like, let me take a stab at naming it. And I also wanted to come up with a name that you could go cross-platform, that it didn't matter whether it was a Scout, a Bronco, a Wagoneer, whatever.
Yep.
It was a brand. And it needed to be easy to say, easy to remember. And so I just kind of said, like, I took a look at the board, and I think I said something like, just give me a day or two. Let me just
I thought it was an hour.
It wasn't an hour.
Genius.
That's too much pressure.
Okay.
I was like, give me a day or two. So I just kind of let it float around and whatever. And I was in the bathroom at Sean's house, where I stay when I'm in town. And at this point, I didn't really have anything. I was just letting it float around. And I look over and I see this.
Letting what float around? Oh, come on. Okay.
Sorry. Letting the ideas float around in my head. And courtesy flow, please.
That's right.
So I look over and I see this Old Spice bottle. And I think, Old Spice, well, that's interesting. 2 words. If it was just spice, that would be, dumb. If it was New Spice, that would be weird. And I was like, there it is, New Legend.
Wow.
Because something about, like, that truck's a legend, that guy's a legend, what a legend. But, everyone's like, it's such a legend of a thing. But it's not an old legend anymore. It's a new one. It's road ready for today. And I just felt like that word, just that combo was like immediate. And then I couldn't get it out of my head, and I had to sketch out a little design for you, even though I'm not a designer, which is why I didn't want to tell you the name. I wanted to show you the name on some graphics. And yeah. So Sean makes it out like when he heard the name, that was it. That was the name. But my recollection of the events was, you kind of had a look on your face like you were thinking. And my thought was, he's not crazy about it. Jared, don't say anything. This is his business. This is, this is his thing. If he doesn't want it, that's fine. But all I wanted to do is be like, Sean, take this name and run with it. You're crazy if you don't. But I didn't say that. And I didn't find out the name was New Legend until the next time I came.
Which is a year later.
A year later. And you just like dropped it in the conversation. You're like, yeah, things at New Legend are going great. And I'm like, wait, you called it New Legend?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah. I'm like, what? Why didn't you tell me?
And I apologize for that. But it was universal, dude. Like
I'm still asking for my shirt.
Yeah, you're
which
gonna
I have
get
not
one.
gotten,
Yeah.
but can I get Luke? Can I get a shirt, please?
Yeah, that's right. We actually, just to show the pace of things in real world context, when you're working and building a brand, building a business, shirts take a while because they have to be right to represent the brand. Like, so we're pretty stoked. We have a new line of apparel coming out. So you'll be, as my friend Matt from Freenote
my
says.
address is 331.
Yeah, that's right. My friend Matt from Freenote says, like, you'll be fully dipped.
Sweet.
This New Legend top,
I can't
head to
wait.
toe. I'll give you like an axe whenever New Legend.
Yes.
An axe.
Oh, I'd love an Axe.
Flannel.
Yes.
You'll be a legend in and of your own right.
This is recording, right? 'Cause this has all been documented.
But what was rad, Jared, is like when it's right, and it's like everyone I told or everyone that has interacted with it's like it just fits. I can't imagine the company, the brand without that name. So it was so great, and I again am forever indebted to you. And someday you will get a massive credit towards a New Legend rig.
Can't wait for that.
So you can be cruising around. Well, cool, man. We have so much more to talk about, but you have to get to a
I'm
a
good
camp.
I'm good on time. Probably got another 10 minutes. If you
Well,
wanna keep going.
I did actually want to talk to you because of your philosophy and practice of being a learner, a lifelong learner. What do you think about the institutional education complex? I'm thinking post high school. We can talk about K through 12. So like, cause this has been a conversation I've had a lot with my kids. My kids are all this age. Benefited. We know that like in our society, particularly in America, I think uniquely in America, we have a student loan. Some would call it a crisis. Whatever, we could talk about that. But there's a lot to be said about higher education and the value of it. Do you still think it's, let's say it like this, is there room for creativity and entrepreneurship and entrepreneuring new ideas to educate people?
Yeah, there's
Because you have a degree, right?
I do.
What's your degree in?
I think business management.
Business management.
I do have a degree. Education was really important to my grandparents. Mm-hmm. They were successful business owners, yet my grandma always like wanted me to be an accountant or get my MBA just because. Mm-hmm. But they did it really from a place of like love and caring.
Of course.
And, I mean, my grandpa's 94 years old. He's taking online chemistry courses. Mm-hmm. He's learning poker. He's such a learner. It's so inspiring. I just think in today's world, there's so many ways to learn. You don't necessarily have to spend a fortune and get a piece of paper to say that you're smart or that you learned something or I don't know. There's certainly pros to higher education. There's certainly cons, but from the argument of like debt to earnings ratio, on paper, no business deal ever makes sense to spend $100K and then earn $35K with a salary cap of maybe 50 if that's your career, whatever your career choice is, and then you have interest piling up. Like those numbers don't add up.
Right.
That to me, that type of stuff needs to change, and it's not a smart decision to take on that amount of debt with really no way of ever getting out of it. It's not that's not healthy debt.
Right. And I think about, I mean, it's the same exact thing with soccer. Like, you don't go to soccer college. Like, you don't go away. Now, you do have a coach, and you have there's mentorship and there's training, but it's on the job experience. Like, what kid goes, I'm going to learn about soccer for 4 years, and then I'll start playing? You know what I'm saying? I know that's like, I've never really thought about that metaphor before.
So my cousin, his kids, He has 2 kids, and I'm around kids a lot, coaching, and usually traits I see at 8 years old, I can kind of say, that kid's going to be a good leader.
Interesting.
That kid's going to be this. And like, that kid now coaches for me at some of my camps, and he is a great leader. Like you can kind of see some of these things. Well, I don't think too deeply on this type of stuff. So some of this is just opinion.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Not
That's
formed,
all
educated opinions. But for example, my nephew doesn't make that great of grades in school. Gets in a little more trouble than his sister, and he's slow to do his homework. His sister flies through all of her homework, gets straight A's, does everything that is required of her, and then some. And they're both great kids. Well, when they were at my house, they both had read the same book at some point. And I asked the older sister, who gets the great grades, what's the book about? She really didn't know, but she read it fast. I asked my nephew, who doesn't get as good of grades, what's the book about? And he didn't shut up for 5 minutes explaining the story to me.
Interesting.
Which I thought was really fascinating.
That is fascinating.
Because lots of the arguments out there is like, we're in the society of test taking and got to get a great grade, and you're just doing what you can to get the good grade. But you didn't really learn. Right. And then you get into the real world where a lot of people don't care what the grade is if you can't apply what you learned, or you're not getting the instant feedback of, what do you mean I turned in my project? Don't I get an A? And you're like, no, that's just what I don't know.
That's why I like to think about it, the demonstration of competency versus like taking a test and just regurgitating information. And I just think, I wanted your opinion because like when you started OSA, you didn't go, oh, I need to go back to school to like take a couple more classes.
No, I didn't. It was basically, I do need to learn though.
That's right.
And pretty much every day since then, I've been reading, learning, studying people, technology news, business news,
and relationships.
News,
like I learned from you. That like there's so much of that, and in our day and age, I just think it's I say the education industrial complex because it's such an to some degree it's outdated because there's so much information. Even the way teachers teach nowadays, kids don't go to their teacher for expert learn. Like they can go to YouTube, they can go to Google, they can Google anything. Think about how you and I solve problems today. You either find kind of like a mentor or coach, or you Google like, how do I change my spark plugs? And like you find information from other people. So I'm just interested. It'll be interesting to see like when Skylar's 16, you're going like, and you understand her wiring and you're helping her discover who she is, and then go like, Ken, how do we get you there? And it'll be interesting. We'll have to check back.
14
years.
I don't know. We're gonna be looking at preschool soon, and I already feel myself being like, "What do you guys? What's your views here? How does this work?" It will be interesting. I mean, I believe in learning and education, and there's many ways to do that.
That's right. Read a book, geek out, hang out with like-minded people. There's I was just at an event called Million Cups, like when we shared about New Legend and our story. And the concept of, if you've not heard of it, it's called a Million Cups. And essentially the idea is that around the country, there are all these chamber of commerces and small towns around America and cities. 7:30 every Wednesday morning around the country, everyone's sharing a cup of coffee. So there's 1 million people essentially virtually having coffee together, talking about entrepreneurship, small business, and ways that can impact our towns and communities and impact the cultures that we live in, provide opportunity for people, help support one another. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's good. All right. Wow. That was fast. It's like the conversation went by fast, but there's so much more we could talk about. Yeah. We'll have Jared on again. Real quick, you like to kite surf, you like to wake surf. Jared, thank you. Also,
I should probably get a shout out for my performance at the lake.
Yes,
I felt pretty good about that.
It was
shallow water.
Yeah, very good.
Cold.
So, but beyond that, what was most important is So I'm 45, and if you guys are 45 and up, you can relate to keeping the stoke alive.
Yeah.
Because it's like 5:30, it's cold, you're like, it's dark, you're like, nah, I don't feel like it. But Jared, you helped me keep the stoke alive. You're like, dude, let's go, man. Let's go. No, we don't have to. Like, yeah, but let's really go. And so 48 degrees, we put on our wetsuits, hit a lake session on and it was super fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
So I'll have to do that again. Wake surfing, kite surfing, into a new phase of taking your family on adventures.
Yeah.
Figuring out what that looks like.
Oh, I like to snowboard too. And,
oh, yeah, that's right.
A good powder session going through the trees is pretty keeping the stoke high. But with my daughter this past year, we got her on the sled on the bunny hill.
How fun.
And I thought riding powder was pretty cool. Watching your daughter have her own stoke on a little baby sled. I was just awesome. Like, wow, this is the best feeling. And she's like, woohoo.
That's a great point. Another episode.
It was
talk about
it was the coolest thing to see.
That's
like
right.
Your own kid get stoked like that.
Yeah, because that is interesting. When you're like single or even married with no kids, like if you watch some other random little kid on the slopes, you're like, yeah, the kid's having fun. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that it can equal your feeling of riding fresh power, seeing your daughter enjoy going on a sled and just giddy as all can be, that's a profound thing about human connection and parenting. So anyway, we'll leave it with that. Thank you for watching and listening. And Jared, how can people watch your videos? If you're bored, go to Google, YouTube, watch an Online Soccer Academy
just
video.
search Online Soccer Academy or how to kick a soccer ball, and you'll probably find it.
And if you are involved with a local soccer club and you need an awesome camp, my recommendation, reach out to these guys. They kill it every time.
Thank you.
Great with kids. It's a great high quality experience, not just about goofing around and talking in funny accents.
Yeah.
No offense.
That's another podcast.
All right, see you next time.
All right, thanks, guys.